only, to our knowledge, the only candidates forum for this important race taking place before the primary on June 6th. I'm Jessica James, president of SOMA Action. We are thrilled to have all of you here tonight, and we especially want to thank our amazing candidates for their participation. This forum serves as an invaluable opportunity for us to learn more about the individuals seeking to represent us in District 28. Before we dive in, just a quick word about SOMA Action. For those of you who might not be familiar with our organization, we are a grassroots community of activists in South Orange and Maplewood, dedicated to driving progressive change and political engagement and advocating for social justice. We have 8 committees offering you opportunities to take action in areas such as climate justice, democracy, education, racial justice, ending gun violence, religious justice, and reproductive rights. We encourage you to stay informed about our initiatives and events like this one by signing up for our email updates at somaaction.org, joining our SOMA Action discussion Facebook group, and following us on Instagram. And by becoming a member for just $20 a year, you can support and sustain our work. We will drop a link in the chat. We also have a really exciting event every month called Politics at the Pub that happens at St. James Gate in Maplewood on the last Thursday of every month, and all members get their first drink free. So if that's not a reason to join, I don't know what possibly could be. So we're thrilled to see so many of you here tonight ready to engage with the democratic process. Our democracy is strengthened when all of us actively engage with those who wish to represent us. Tonight, we will hear our candidates discuss a range of critical issues, from education and the environment to democracy and trans rights. We can't wait to hear from our candidates on these critical issues. The format for tonight's discussion will be explained by our moderator, Sean Bailey, but we ask everyone to respect the speaking times and the views of others to ensure a productive and respectful forum. Once again, thank you so much for being here. Your engagement demonstrates the strength of our democracy and the power of informed decision-making. On behalf of all of us from the SOMA Action Board, enjoy tonight, and now over to you, Sean.
Thanks, Jessica, and good evening, everyone. To our candidates, welcome. We appreciate you joining us and taking the time to discuss the pressing issues of the day. Now, I'd like to encourage you to take a deep breath and relax. We're all here to learn, to share, and to engage in constructive dialogue about the future of our state. I'd like to inform the audience at home that our candidates have received the questions in advance to ensure thoughtful and informed conversation. Also, please note this forum is being recorded. Thanks to SOMA Action committees and members for crafting the questions, and to Ritu Pancholi and Stanley Barron for bringing this forum to life. We hope to cover all questions and give our candidates time to express their views and plans. Here's how the forum will work. Each candidate will have a minute for their opening statement. Then we'll move to questions answered first in rotating alphabetical order. The first candidate has 2 minutes for their answer. The others have 1 minute to respond. This rotation continues throughout the forum, and we end with 1 minute closing statements. Special note to the candidates. Stan Barron will signal with a sign when you have 30 seconds left, and again when your time is up. Our forum tonight is for 90 minutes, and we're hoping to have some time at the end to address audience questions. Please submit your questions privately to Ritu Pancholi through the webinar's chat function. Remember, the goal of tonight's forum is to help all of us make informed decisions about who will best represent us in District 28. Thanks for joining us, and let's get started with opening statements. As we begin this forum, we'd like to gain insight into your personal and professional experiences that have shaped your aspirations for public service. Could you please provide a concise overview of your background, current employment, any previous or ongoing elected positions held, and your involvement with nonprofit or advocacy organizations that have contributed to your understanding of the issues? Garnett Hall, we start with you.
Good
I'm sorry, Burnett, we're not hearing you. You got it? Okay.
Good evening. Are you hearing me now?
Yes, we are.
Okay, great. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for this opportunity to speak with you, and thank you for SOMA Action to inviting me to this forum. I want to say hello to my running mate, Cleo Tucker, and also to Frank McGehee. I would like to start by reading something that really summarized my journey here tonight. We shall not cease from exploration, and at the end of all our exploring, we will arrive back at this where we started and know the place for the first time. Now that was written by T.S. Eliot. And the reason why I chose that, because I really think it summarized how I got in this seat tonight. And I'm going to tell you why. Once to start off with, my name is Garnett Hall. I'm a lifelong Democrat of Essex County. I've resided in Maplewood for 35 years. I am currently the deputy clerk for Essex County, supporting Chris Durkin. I would like to say, I'm sorry. Okay, thank you. My activism started when I was 12 years old. I'll tell you what happened. I was in a program by the Urban League to do my homework, but it was really a leadership group. So they would start by showing us things that we need to do to take extra classes or things like that. But then I started to find out that they brought in Dr. Martin Luther King, and he had a chance to speak with us, and he asked us to get engaged. I didn't know I was already engaged. So that's how it all started. My mother worked at Essex County Hospital, and she retired from there after 30 years. My father was a shop steward at a trucking company in Newark Airport. He started the union down there, and that's how he got to be the shop steward. My husband worked at General Motors for 35 years, and he retired, but he was a union trustee. Kind of see the pattern? Year after year, as I was growing up, I was learning how to be a leader. I was learning how to work in the community. I was learning what my parents did or emulating what they did. All I saw was helping people in the community. My son is a police officer in Newark. That throws another service level for you. And also my daughter is an RN, a visiting nurse that services Essex County. So the common thread in all of this is service, Essex County, commitment to the community, and it all makes us feel good. So that kind of summarized the story that I'm going all the way back to the beginning and sitting in this seat today. I didn't have a chance to think about running because I had other things going on in my life during this 30 years that I've been with the community. But this time someone asked me to run and I thought it was a good time. So now is the time. I would like to serve the community at a different level. I have all the people in the contacts there with me because that's who I was working with and working for. And I think I can really make a difference. The time is now.
Thank you, Garnett Hall. Frank McGee, you're next, please.
All right. Thank you, Sean, and good evening to you, Assemblywoman Tucker, and to you also, Ms. Hall. My name is Frank McGehee, and I'm the son of two educators. I've been a Maplewood resident since 2013 and was elected to serve on the Maplewood Township Committee in 2016 and re-elected in 2019. While serving on the Township Committee for my 2 3-year terms, I was elected deputy mayor in 2018 and mayor in 2020 at the onset of the global pandemic. The issues that I will focus on in Trenton as your District 28 representative are affordability and closing the wealth gap, education and closing the achievement gap, public safety and stopping gun violence, accessible healthcare, including mental health, transportation and infrastructure, environmental sustainability and climate resilience, racial equality, LGBTQIA, rights, and economic development. I have spent more than 30 years in terms of my experience in the public and private sector. In corporate America, I was a marketer in high-profile startups, such as Jay-Z's former music streaming company Tidal, Harris Entertainment, the Walt Disney Company, and Bank of America. I am passionate about public service, having held many roles, including serving as an appointed member of the Economic Development Committee in Newton, Massachusetts, a member of the PTA at Tuscan Elementary School in Maplewood, a board of trustee for the South Orange Maplewood Coalition, Community Coalition on Race, and the Maplewood Foundation, a member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity, Alpha Alpha Lambda, the Newark chapter, and the National Haitian American Elected Officials Network. I have also helped raise funding and awareness for a wide range of nonprofit organizations, including but not limited to MEND, Meeting Essential Needs with Dignity, the Achieve Foundation, and Family Connections. Please visit my website, McGehee for Assembly, to learn more. Thank you, Sean, and I yield the floor.
Thank you, Frank McGehee. Cleopatra Tucker, your opening statement, please.
Good evening. I'm Cleopatra Tucker. I'm a Newark resident. I've been a Newark resident for the past 57 years. And I represent the 28th Legislative District. For the past 15 years, I've always served with honor and distinction. And it's a pleasure for me to, at this time, have an opportunity to serve for Maplewood, to represent Maplewood and South Orange. I'm seeking your support, and I will continue to do the work for you in Maplewood and South Orange as I had done for the other communities I had served, Bloomfield, Newark, Irvington, and Nutley, and Glen Ridge. I became interested in politics a long time ago after I first got to Newark in 1966 when I went to register to vote, and I went into the Hall of Records and asked them, I came to take the test, and they asked me, what test? I say the test to become a registered voter. And they said, we don't do that here. Where did you come from? I said, well, I'm from Birmingham, Alabama. And that's what I had to do in order to vote when I turned 18, was to take a test. And I just was so happy that all I had to do was just fill out the paper. And I says, well, now I know I'm going to continue to do everything I can do in my power to make sure that I can represent people and be a part of the community.
Okay, thank you, candidates. Let's begin the questions. Now we'll start our official rotation with Garnett Hall and a question about abortion rights. While the recent SCOTUS decision has temporarily preserved the use of mifepristone, this case has been a wake-up call to all states, including New Jersey, that currently have some abortion protections in place. What will you do to strengthen both the right and access to abortion and the expansion of abortion care here in New Jersey, including expanding coverage for abortion care to undocumented people who currently already have access to prenatal and postnatal care? You have 2 minutes.
Okay. Reproductive freedom of choice was sponsored by Assemblywoman Myla Jacey. The New Jersey legislature codifying this fundamental right to control their own bodies, and undocumented women access the law with full protection to travel to New Jersey to receive health care services. The New Jersey legislature acted almost immediately following the Supreme Court Dobbs decision, which ended our federation, our federally protected and fundamental right to abortion established 50 years ago by Roe versus Wade. Women in more than half of the nation have fewer fights than their grandmothers. And this is a travesty of justice. The right to abortion, already enshrined in the case law, was codified into state law in January of 2022, when Governor Murphy signed the law, together with the second law ensuring access to contraceptions, followed in one of the most meaningful voting sessions that has ever been seen before. Assembly JC was the prime sponsor of the law, known to Reproductive Freedom of Choice Act, ensuring New Jersey women have access to safe abortions performed by qualified medical professions free from government interference. The New Jersey right to this protection is secure unless the Supreme Court bans abortion nationwide. Because we acted immediately to codify the fundamental right, doctors and patients have the full protection, as do who travel to New Jersey because they are denied reproductive health care in their home state. I also support equity and access bill, which will codify insurance coverages, increase Medicaid rates, and expand the scope of practice, ensuring all women will have the ability to take advantage of the right for which we have fought for 50 years. And is to lead the sponsor of Access Bill. If bills do not pass during this session, it will be one of my top priorities when it's reintroduced next session. And I just want to know, I have been there at the marches. I believe in this. I have to speak up for this. So I will continue to do that no matter what the outcome.
Thank you. Frank McGehee, your response. You have 1 minute.
There we go. Having a hard time getting unmuted there. So thank you, Sean. As a father of a teenage daughter and the spouse of someone who's been challenged with high-risk pregnancies, this issue is deeply personal to me. And that's why I applaud First Lady Tammy Murphy's Nurture NJ initiative to improve maternal infant health outcomes, particularly among women of color. I believe that access to comprehensive health care, which includes abortion coverage, is critical to every person's health and well-being. All people should be able to make a decision about their bodies, including the decision to have an abortion without government interference. Even in states like New Jersey, where we have some of the strongest reproductive legislation, it's clear that there is an agenda to dismantle all access around the country, so we cannot be complacent. If I'm elected to the Assembly, I will focus on enhancing access to comprehensive care for women and/or families, particularly for those without health insurance, and ensuring that they are aware of the resources that are available. Thank you.
Cleopatra Tucker, your response for 1 minute, please.
I firmly believe in the woman's right to choose my body, my decision. I'm proud to say that I supported the legislation in New Jersey to protect women's rights, along with expanded funds for organizations like Planned Parenthood and others. As a legislator, I will always be a no vote on this issue of about any legislation concerning women's rights, and so they won't be limited. And I'm also in favor of expanding for coverage for undocumented people that come here, because they are a critical part of our community. So I'm always no, and I always stand up for women, and I'm always going to be a supporter of my body, my decision.
Thank you, candidates. Now we move on to the environment. We start with Frank McGehee. Governor Murphy and the Department of Environmental Protection issued an energy master plan in 2020 that pledges to achieve an 80% reduction in the state's greenhouse gas emissions by 2050. But they've never developed a roadmap with benchmarks that will help us get there and measure progress as it is achieved. What will you do in the legislature to push the administration to get more specific? You have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Sean. Environmental and sustainability issues have been key tenets of my public service, having served as liaison for the Maplewood Green Team. Climate change is both a matter of public health and public safety. Governor Murphy just signed the environmental justice law, making sure that areas and communities that are most vulnerable because of their lack of resilience are prioritized. The events that transpired in Ivy Hill after Ida are concerning, and we need to ensure that any potential developments is thoughtful of the residents that it will impact. As your assembly person, I would work with the governor's administration and the Department of Environmental Protection on an initial update in January 2024 regarding the Energy Master Plan's 7 strategies, and then request quarterly updates. The Master Plan of 2020 highlighted 7 strategies: reducing energy consumption and emissions for transportation sector, accelerating development of renewable energy and distributed energy resources, maximizing energy efficiency and conservation, reducing energy consumption and emissions from the building sectors, decarbonizing and modernizing New Jersey's energy system, supporting community energy planning and action in underserved communities, and expanding clean energy innovation economy. I would seek more detail on efforts to encourage electric vehicle adoption by residents, where we are with New Jersey Transit purchasing of electric buses for their fleet with an emphasis on underserved communities. This dialogue will result in action to design legislation with legislative services to move forward the Energy Master Plan. Although the formal adoption of NJDEP regulations last month was a major victory for the environmental justice movement in New Jersey, there is still much more work to be done. In order to truly address environmental injustice in this state, we must ensure that the new regulations are utilized to achieve their fullest benefits, as well as continue to push for new policies, laws, and funding that prioritize health and well-being of overburdened people of color and low-income communities. Thank you.
Cleopatra Tucker, your 1-minute response, please.
A good environment and legislation is most effective, and the things that I could do, I will work with the community members and environment groups to identify specific benchmarks that we might seek in ensuring that New Jersey reaches its goal by 2050, protecting low-income communities, forming harmful pollutions and waste and to the climate change. Continue to advocate for clean energy and incentives. I can continue to ensure through the community with the residents of my newsletters, social media, and community meetings that the residents are aware of what abilities and things, and then the best paths to work to get these meetings done, and host community meetings, even to bring out the officials in the district to discuss and provide resources to everyone of the residents.
Thank you. Garnett Hall, your 1-minute response, please. You're muted.
Thank you, I'm sorry. I fully support and defend Governor Murphy's Energy's Master Plan. I support 80% reduction of greenhouse gases initiatives by 2050, but the roadmap must be realistic. Each of our communities in the 28th district and the state have different requirements to be the best meet the needs of the residents. I fully support Governor Murphy's Energy Master Plan. I pledge the 80% reduction in greenhouse initiative, but the roadmap must be realistic, and sometimes laws, rather than regulations, policies, and guidelines, can have unintended consequences. I believe the DEP, equipped with the knowledge and expertise to create a solid benchmark, and will be able to make the 80% reductions goal attainable. And I support giving the needed latitude to accomplish it.
Thank you. Our second question on the environment starts with Cleopatra Tucker. The Inflation Reduction Act and the bipartisan infrastructure bill offer billions of dollars in incentives and subsidies for the transition to clean energy. How do you see your role in making sure District 28 residents take full advantage of these opportunities? You have 2 minutes. Please unmute yourself.
I will make sure that the people that I represent in the 28th district is well informed on all the actions and the things that we're going to be doing, and any information that's needed will be provided. I will have an open door policies if they have any discussions. We'll also set up community meetings and group meetings to have people from the environmental organizations and committees to come out and discuss these issues with the community so they can be informed of what's going on and how it's going to play out. And I'm in full support of the governor's initiatives, and I will be making sure that all the information needed and all the services that we need to provide that will come to the 28th district.
Thank you. Garnett Hall, your 1 minute response, please.
The Bipartisan Infrastructure Act allocated funding over the next 5 years. New Jersey will receive $8.9 billion to repair crumbling bridges and roads while making them safer for pedestrians and cyclists. $154 million is allocated to reduce transportation-related emissions, and $104 million expand the state EV charging stations and networks. $356 million for infrastructure resilience to address climate change, and $44 million for clean buses, to name a few. It will also mean thousands of construction and renewable energy jobs. Most of the funds will be distributed by state, some by requested and others by grants. I commit fully to supporting all of the county and local applications for these funds.
Thank you. Frank McGehee, please unmute yourself for your 1 minute response.
Thank you, Sean. The Inflation Reduction Act, which consists of a combination of grants, rebates, incentives, and other investments, provides two opportunities for our district: tax credits for clean vehicles and grant funding to improve EPA programs. Of the 14 programs under the Inflation Reduction Act and electric vehicle programs prioritized by the NJ Department of Environmental Protection, there are three clean vehicle programs with an opportunity of approximately $9.9 billion in funding earmarked for local government and community-based nonprofits. As your assembly person, I would want our municipalities and residents to take advantage. I will collaborate with our mutual leaders and school administrations on grant writing and community outreach to our local municipalities, nonprofits, which are eligible. There are a handful of NJ transportation-related EPA programs that are also, I'm out of time, I'll yield. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have a question from our Racial Justice Committee. This one goes to Garnett Hall. Please unmute yourself. You have 2 minutes. We hear the term racial justice used in the media and community. How do you define racial justice, and what will you do to promote racial justice in Trenton?
While I do not know the author of the recently saw a definition of racial justice describing what it means to me: the system of fair treatment of people of every race that results in equitable opportunities and outcomes for everyone. I believe racial justice exists when all people have the same opportunity to achieve their full potential. Institutional racism is reality. We see it in our police departments, demonstrated by the disparity of treatment of Black and Hispanics versus white suspects. In our schools, in our school districts, which state law requires students to go to school where they live, forcing students of color to attend substandard schools and crumbling buildings. In housing, where communities like SOMA are among the very few that embrace affordable housing, instead of resulting and concentration of poverty because of choices are limited and the costs are high. Our welfare system is a study of systematic racism. I support passage of the bill languishing in the legislature sponsored by the legislators' Black Caucus to create a task force to examine reparations for defendants of enslaved people by taking responsibility for slavery and consequences, which continue to this day, make a policy of recommendations to develop financial and social investments in Black communities affected by the systematic racism.
Thank you. Frank McGehee, unmute yourself for your 1-minute response, please.
Sorry, I'll start over. After the murder of George Floyd in 2020, there were so many promises made both in the private and public sector. But as we've gotten further away from that time and that focus, action and accountability has nearly come to a standstill, and we've gone back to business as usual. What we have come to realize is that it was performative with little to no action. Realizing racial justice takes more than thoughts and prayers, good intentions, and talking points. When I'm elected to the Assembly, I'll be working to integrate racial equality and equity into policies, practices, and procedures. I'm an advocate for the New Jersey Institute of Social Justice 3 pillars: economic justice, equal justice, and democratic justice. I will also work and add the fact that we also should have environmental justice as well. Thank you.
Cleopatra Tucker, please unmute yourself for your 1-minute response.
When I hear racial injustice, I think of racial injustice, and what has happened in the past must be corrected over the systemic racism of all these years against people of color in our country. Racial injustice to me means diversity, resources to the community that we have been disadvantaged and frankly have not had, and we have been left behind in this country of this ugly history for years against this racism. To ensure racial justice in Trenton, by being a Black woman and a member of the Assembly, I will ensure racial justice in Trenton by supporting legislators by Democrats and Republicans that would affect the communities of color. Ensure racial justice by legislation in the Black Caucus that we meet weekly to address these issues to ensure that we can put forth bills that will support the stop of racial injustice in the state of New Jersey and throughout the country.
Thank you. Now we turn to a series of questions about democracy and voting rights. On the subject of electoral reforms, a question concerning the party line ballot. For the uninitiated, the party line ballot, or simply the line, refers to the order in which candidates in New Jersey state elections appear on ballots. Unlike in other states, where candidates are typically listed alphabetically or randomly, in nearly every county in New Jersey, party chairs and elected clerks selectively group their preferred candidates, which gives them greater visibility on the ballot to the considerable disadvantage of lesser-known outsider candidates. One recent analysis found that the party line candidates had as much as a 35-point vote margin advantage in primary elections over candidates given less favorable ballot positions. And not since 2009 has an incumbent state legislator lost a primary. Our first democracy question goes to Frank McGehee. A state Senate bill to abolish the party line ballot was introduced earlier this year, but it faces an uphill battle, given that the beneficiaries of the system are now being asked to do away with a ballot structure that benefits them. What is your position on abolishing the party line ballot? And if elected, would you work to support a version of the end the line bill in the Assembly? You have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Sean. My candidacy in this election is a tangible example of my call for reform. Yes, I would sponsor a version of the end the line bill in the Assembly. It's true, when I entered politics back in 2016, I was endorsed by the Maplewood Democratic Committee party line and benefited in the primary. It is also true in 2015, when I went to the committee for the committee's endorsement, I was encouraged to wait my turn and not run off the line, that I had a future. However, times have changed dramatically since then. Not only did COVID change everything, but community engagement has resulted in us knowing that now all candidates are built the same. The line is a form of modern day voter intimidation and suppression. It hurts our democracy across all party affiliations and creates a lack of ballot balance. Having all candidates listed on the same line will result in more people running for office at the municipal, county, and state level, which means more opportunity for us as voters to have a choice while providing public service-minded people an opportunity which benefits everyone as voters. So it's time for transformation of the political process in New Jersey and eliminate the party line and stop protecting candidates or anyone who leverages the building and the branding of the party endorsement for validation of their candidacy in lieu of their record or platform. Thank you.
Cleopatra Tucker, please unmute yourself for your 1 minute response.
Well, when I first started, I was not on a party line. I wasn't on the line A. I won off the line. So I think if you're qualified, I have no objection to running on the line, off the line. But if you're well known, you do your work, you meet with the people, it really speaks for itself. You can win on or off the line. And I don't think it's a big issue for us. I'm concerned. Everybody knows that election is coming and you get out and vote to whoever you want to. And being on the line, it is an asset in some cases. Yes, it is. But I don't think you should change anything right now.
Barnett Hall, please unmute yourself for your 1 minute response.
Thank you. I had a hard time looking at this for a minute. I have been a candidate that has worked on many accounts, many leaders' campaigns on the local, state, national, since 2005. I was good with that. I know what the line is, and it's just a group of people who believe in you, want to support you through the Essex County Democratic Committee, and they all get behind you. Now, one of the questions or things that bothered me about this is that it was okay for Frank to run on the line 2 times, because I worked on many campaigns. And then on the 3rd attempt, he didn't get the line. And he put out a statement saying that the 3 Black women that are running are anointed. I took exception to that. And I think that just as we have a group of people who belong to an organization and they all get behind their candidate, what's the big difference? Get out to vote either way. Make a decision either way. Have forums like you're having now. Find out what it is that you like about the candidate, because all of this nonsense is fluff.
Thank you, Ms. Hall. Your time has expired.
Sean, if I may I address that, please?
Okay, we'll give you 15 seconds.
I appreciate that. And thanks for bringing that up, Ms. Hall. I appreciate that. So let me clarify. You know, the county line is something that's been intact for as long as I remember. And the process of deciding the individual on the line is something that wasn't democratic. It was something that occurred amongst a small party of individuals. That's not democracy. And frankly, that's why I use the word anointed. So I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you. Candidates, we continue with voting rights and democracy. This one goes first to Cleopatra Tucker. Do you support using ranked choice voting for state and federal elections and permitting municipalities to use it locally? And if yes, what actions will you take to promote it? Please unmute yourself. You have 2 minutes.
Well, frankly, I think each municipality has the right to choose how they want their elections run. And if they want to have an election where you have 50% plus one to win, that makes you go into a runoff election. And that's just the law. Some municipalities are different, but I think each municipality has the right to choose how they want to run their own elections, and it's not for the other people outside of their municipalities to tell them how to run their elections. And in the end, the most person that gets the most votes, either if they have to go into a runoff or not, should be the most qualified person.
Thank you. Garnett Hall, please unmute yourself for your 1 minute response.
So I support ranked choice voting. I have been looking at it and trying to make a decision about it. And I could be open to other options, but I did take a stand on that. It was introduced by Assemblyman Benson. And I think ranked choice voting is an option we should seriously consider.
Thank you. Frank McGehee, please unmute yourself for your 1 minute response.
Thank you, Sean. From what I understand from ranked choice voting, it's a way to vote for more than the allowed seats for an office. If information regarding a candidate's platform and or record is properly provided to voters, I think that voters can decide on their top candidate or candidates. I would like to see us first work on eliminating the county line and trying traditional voting with the proper balance before introducing and pivoting to another concept. Thank you.
Our last democracy question goes first to Garnett Hall. Do you support same-day voter registration in New Jersey? Why or why not? Please unmute yourself. You have 2 minutes.
Yes, I do support same-day registration and voting. This is a part of my job as in the Essex County Deputy Clerk that I have a great deal of experience in. I constantly, even before an election, have people that have concerns that they're not registered or that they didn't receive their ballot. So this is a daily activity to keep people engaged, is to be able to say, yes, you can vote, register and vote on the same day. Just this weekend, I had a waitress in the diner say to me she wasn't registered to vote and she wanted to vote for me. Well, as of yesterday, she was still able to fill out a registration and finally make the deadline. But if we had same day registration, she would still have a few more days to register and to vote on the same day. So I am a big supporter of increasing the vote availability, increasing access to voting, and I think this is the way we should go.
Thank you. Frank McGehee, please unmute yourself for your 1 minute response.
Thank you, Sean. Yes, I would support same-day registration and would meet with our county clerks to learn more about what type of resources they would need for operational turnaround and collaborate on obtaining that. As a democracy, we should encourage voter engagement and voter registration year-round. We should find ways to provide opportunities for everyone to vote, enhance our voter registration efforts with stronger outreach within our school districts. We should also consider making Election Day a state holiday to ease the anxiety about getting to the polls before and after work on time. And for those currently who cannot vote due to having a felony record, once you've served your time and have re-entered society, that should reinstate their right to vote. We need to support our returning citizens. They have rights. Thank you.
Thank you. Cleopatra Tucker, please unmute yourself for your 1-minute response.
We should make voting easier for those who want to vote. We should expand the voting rights for those who, we've already expanded the voting rights for those who have been incarcerated and convicted of felonies. And we've also made it a lot easier to allow 17-year-olds to register early. And I believe it's that the voting, same-day voting, it's one way to make sure that everybody that wants to vote have a chance and the right to vote.
Thank you. Now we move on to education. And our first question goes to Frank McGehee. Assemblywoman Myla Jassy currently serves as Vice Chair of the Assembly Education Committee. What are your main education priorities that you'll advocate for in Trenton? And are you considering joining the Assembly's Education Committee? Please unmute yourself for your 2-minute answer.
Thank you, Sean. It's imperative that we address school safety. We need to do better by our students, parents, guardians, teachers, and staff. The policies in place are not effective. I will work to address the need for mental health resources such as counselors and social workers in the buildings and classrooms, from elementary through high school. I am not in support of cutting school-based programs that provide these services. We also need to look at the criminalization of Black and Brown students in our schools and revisit the learning loss that occurred during the pandemic and how we can apply corrective measures to assist those students who were impacted. I will work for better compensation for our teachers among increasing teacher shortages and rising healthcare costs, and take a look and review the Tier 5 pension benefits program, which impacts new teachers' abilities to function. I will look to improve resources for teachers outside the classroom and find additional support for educators in non-core classes.
Thank you.
As a child of educators, I am open to joining the Assembly's Education Committee. Thank you.
Cleopatra Tucker, please unmute yourself for your 1-minute response.
In Trenton, I have supported fully funded districts, supporting local schools and colleges through the budget process, supporting the superintendents and local actives and board members in their process for their districts, supporting legislation to ensure that New Jersey, we don't limit our students' learning about racial justice. Here we have the Amistad Act, and we continue to ensure that the Amistad Act adopted in all the school districts. And we should always make sure that we stand up for our school districts and make sure we also provide the needs and special protection that we need for our schools today. With so much going on in the school system, we have to be alert and make sure that they receive everything, all the things that they need to make sure that they can educate our children properly.
Thank you. Garnett Hall, please unmute yourself for your 1-minute response.
Each legislator may commit to some of the committees that they're interested in. Of course, with me supporting Myla Jassy all this time, I am considering joining the Education Committee in Trenton. My children went through the Maplewood South Orange School District from kindergarten all the way through high school. I was involved in PTA, class mother, integrating the schools with Seth Boyden. So I still think there's a lot of work to be done, because guess what? All of those issues that I fought 20 years ago are still with us or had improved, and now they're back. So I really think that I would be a good candidate to be able to go to Trenton and have real life issues discussed on the floor, because I've experienced them. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next education question starts with Cleopatra Tucker. How will you work to support our district's intentional integration goals? You have 2 minutes and unmute yourself, please.
Well, I would work with our school systems to make sure that they follow the guidelines and making sure that they integrate the schools properly and have just don't draw a line, a certain line to say this is when you think about how to integrate the school systems, which is that's like it's sort of like a thing. How do you tell somebody that they can't go to this school in this district because of, and a lot of things that they've been told, it's not necessarily true that everybody should have the same opportunity and go to the schools and be integrated properly.
Thank you. Garnett Hall, please unmute yourself for your 1 minute response.
I fully support the integration of SMSD elementary schools, just as I supported them and have been involved in it. The Community Coalition on Race, I was actually here at the first meeting that they had, and we brought that up as a topic. I was involved in when we transferred about 200 students from the other side of town to Seth Boyden for a few years. It probably lasted 3 or 4 years. But I also liked the neighborhood, and I liked being able to walk my son to school, which most of us did. So I support integration, but if there is a way that we can also have community neighborhood schools, I'm all for that solution also.
Thank you. Frank McGehee, please unmute yourself for your 1 minute response.
Thank you, Sean. As a parent of a current South Orange Maplewood School District student finishing a decade in the schools, I fully support the international integration plan for the district. Because if we don't, then we fall short of being the type of community we say we are and we're aspiring to be. Historically in SOMA, we've had one school where 42% of the students are on free and reduced lunch, and another in the same district with not even 4%. We have a school which is more than 55% Black and another that is 61% white. South Orange and Maplewood are a microcosm of Essex and Union counties where we are geographically diverse, but also intensely segregated. A good education should not depend on your zip code or your neighborhood. So when we talk about intentional integration, in the simplest of terms, we are not saying Black students need to sit next to white students in order to thrive. That is not what we're saying. Intentional integration is about equity and creating equitable education systems that connect under-resourced communities with resources and education so that all students can thrive. Resources like tutoring, enrichment programs, mental health, and other social services, including AP and honor classes. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we have another question from our Racial Justice Committee. We start with Garnett Hall. Freedom to learn about racial justice is under attack in our country. What will you do to protect this freedom in New Jersey? Please unmute yourself for your 2 minute response.
Oh boy, this is a good one. We have to stand up, first of all. The right to learn and to secure New Jersey, and Mila just did a bill which was modeling with a school out in Illinois. You might be familiar with it, prohibiting libraries from banning books due to partisan pressure. I got so upset, furious, when I got the notice and I got on the phone and I got a lot of people together and I had a meeting, and guess what? They still all went. We have to stand up and stop this. I will support it, every bill to protect education. New Jersey requires that the state curriculum include teaching and learning about the entire African-American experience, including the incredible contributions of everyone, every field by your imagination, made by Black people. I didn't know this until I got to high school. Why didn't I learn this? The history was only learned by books that I read. And I went back to the school and questioned the teacher, and they had no answer either. So I really think that books are a way that we tell the true history of America, not just one type of slavery. That's all they told me, was that my Black people were just slaves, until I started reading books and I found out that it made the stop sign of the traffic light. That was my first learning of me looking to see, I better read further. So I will stand for this every day. I will stand for this whether I'm a candidate. I will stand for this whether I'm in the assembly. And I hope that everybody on this call will stand with me.
Thank you. Frank McGehee, your 1-minute response, and please unmute yourself.
Thank you. At the Freedom to Learn National Day of Action event a couple weeks ago in South Orange, I spoke about events underway to erase African-American history, LGBTQ history, and essentially American history. I also talked about my passion for reading, my passion for books, especially books by African-American authors. And for nearly every year that I served on the Maplewood Township Committee, during Black History Month, I hosted 1 or 2 book readings. Books that expressed amazing narratives about African-American history, past and present. Stories that really remind me of my father, my grandfather who left the deep South of Mississippi and migrated to Chicago, who worked for the railroad for a search for a better life, and the coming age of a young Black woman just like my daughter. The books were The Hate U Give, The Warmth of Other Suns, The Nickel Boys, the New Jim Crow, and Caste. Amazing in narratives of African-American history. And today, these books are very important, but they're on banned list. As I mentioned that night, I would co-sponsor Assemblywoman Timberlake's legislation, making it illegal to ban books, but equally fight against bills such as A783, prohibiting teaching of critical race theory in public schools, and Bill S2685, which subjects teachers and school districts to penalties regarding teaching critical race theory.
Thank you. Cleopatra Tucker, please unmute yourself for your 1-minute response.
I continue to support the legislation that further ensure that New Jersey don't limit their students' learning. We have a bill that's already in progress called the Amistad Act. And if we can continue with this source, that we could continue to ensure that the Amistad Act is adopted in all the school districts in New Jersey. And that way they can learn not only
I'm sorry, Cleopatra, you've gone to mute for some reason. There you go.
okay, I support at the future to ensure that New Jersey don't limit our students' learning about racial justice. We have an Amistad Act that we can continue to ensure that the Amistad Act is adopted in all the schools in the District of New Jersey, because all the schools don't participate or use the Amistad Act, and we have to make sure that we have an act in place and that it's fully operating throughout the school district, so everybody could have an opportunity to learn the Black history as well as history in general about the Amistad Act and the people in history that is omitted in some of the schools here in the state of New Jersey, even though we have an act to protect it.
Thank you. Candidates, transgender rights is our next topic. We start with Frank McGehee. In light of the attacks on transgender youth in 20+ states this year, and Governor Murphy's recent executive order making New Jersey a safe haven state for transgender youth, what is your plan for permanently protecting transgender youth and their access to gender-affirming care in New Jersey? You have 2 minutes and unmute yourself, please.
Thank you, Sean. Well, today, New Jersey Attorney General Matt Papkin co-led a coalition of 12 attorney generals in filing a comment letter supporting robust and anti-discrimination protections for transgender students. And last month, Governor Murphy signed Executive Order 326 protecting gender-affirming healthcare in New Jersey. And while New Jersey's support for every person's right to live freely and authentically is great, there is still more work ahead. Right now, the ACLU is tracking 125 healthcare bills in the US that are targeting LGBTQ rights. These bills cause harm for our LGBTQ community through the risk of job loss, facing harassment, inability to travel, or entering public establishments. In New Jersey, there are 6 active bills that are anti-transgender youth and would prevent access to gender-affirming care. And I will fight against each and every one. Bills like S3076, the Child Protection Anti-Mutilation Act, aimed at banning healthcare for LGBTQ intersex, transgender, and non-binary persons, and limit the ability to update gender information IDs and records. Bill A1630, Fairness in Women's Sports Act, an attempt to ban transgender and non-binary youth and young adults from high school and college university athletics. Right now, there are over 1.6 adults and young people who identify as transgender in the United States, 1.6 million. And 56% of LGBTQ young people who wanted mental health care in the past year were unable to get it, 56%. Allowing employers, businesses, and even hospitals to turn away LGBTQ people or refuse them equal treatment is wrong. I will sponsor or support legislation which enhances Governor Murphy's executive order, which includes our state-level departments and agencies to protect those providing or receiving gender-affirming healthcare services and look to advance those protections into the private and corporate sector. Thank you.
Cleopatra Tucker, please unmute yourself for your 1-minute response.
We want to make sure that all youth feel safe and protected in New Jersey and continue to support the Safe Haven Act for the community. We want to ensure that while the youth are going through transitions, they don't have to be hindered, don't have to do anything to be hindered of their rights and of their rights.
Thank you. Garnett Hall, please unmute yourself for your 1-minute response.
I especially want to make sure that Mila's bill requiring school districts to establish policies to meet the needs of transgender students is passed and signed into law. It is the sole pro-trans bill addressing the need of trans students in our schools. Governor Murphy, Assemblywoman Jaycee, and our Democratic state and legislative leaders are standing up for the LGBTQ+ community by ensuring that New Jersey has the strongest protections and that the laws include sexual orientation and gender identity expressions in the nation. They have required access to gender affirmation, healthcare, ID, and documents, housing, business, education, mental health, wellness, and veteran services, equity. Now more than ever, we need strong leaders and investors in building on and moving New Jersey forward to continue to support the LGBT community.
Thank you. Candidates, next we turn to constituent service, and we begin with Cleopatra Tucker. As a local state representative, how would you ensure ongoing engagement with your constituents? What specific steps would you take to hold regular town hall meetings or similar events to promote open dialogue and accessibility, reflecting the same spirit of commitment you've demonstrated by participating in this candidates forum? Please unmute yourself. You have 2 minutes.
My staff and I will let you know about the constituent services that that's top priority for the people. And we have an open door policy that we continue to support the community meetings, engage in community groups and leadership. Things that have already been done in the district. The 28th district will do the new municipalities that are in the districts. We continue to bring resources and community service. For instance, we will bring the motor vehicle community task force. Will host job fairs, resources, and listen sessions, and extend all these services to the residents of the community of the SOMA. We've done, my staff and I we have an open door policy. We will extend you all the courtesies and privileges that you need. You can call us and we'll set up meetings and provide the services and stay in contact with the people in the community and follow up with any issues that you might call or make complaints about. We also have policies of working with the youth in the community, and I will continue the same service for the new Maplewood South Orange district that I did in the other district that in the 28th district that I did in Newark, Bloomfield, Irvington, Nutley, and Glen Ridge.
Thank you. Garnett Hall, your response for 1 minute. Please unmute yourself.
A large part of my work as Deputy Clerk of Essex County involves performing constituent services. In fact, the clerk's office, we set up Assemblywoman Myla Jaycees as a substation or just a location in the community during COVID. We still had to swear in, and which I do on a daily basis, notaries. So we set up an office here that they could get in and continue with their services so they can continue to service their constituents. There's a lot of things that we do on a daily basis, and that would be, as I tell most of the people, we are a resource. If you have a problem, call your assembly person. We help with anchor applications, and if you don't know what anchor is, it's an application that we needed to file for taxes. That was a tax rebate. Many of the seniors didn't understand it. We explained it to them. We helped them fill it out and helped them file it. So we do a lot of things here in Maplewood and South Orange that's connected with the county because I find a need and a solution. Based on the chief
Thank
of
you.
staff that was here.
Thank you. Your time has expired. Thanks. Frank McGehee, please unmute yourself for your 1 minute response.
Thank you, Sean. One of the things I enjoyed most during my tenure on the Township Committee in Maplewood, including as mayor, was the ability to interact with many organizations and groups throughout our community. And over the last 2 months of my campaign, I have been in the community. I've already knocked on over 500 doors in our district in all 5 municipalities, with hundreds more to go. I was always accessible and responsive as an elected official in Maplewood, and I plan to take that same mindset to the Assembly, being accessible to my constituents. Representation matters, and it is grassroots. It's not third parties knocking on your door. It's about me and us doing the work. As an Assembly person, I plan to attend municipal meetings on a frequent basis and will plan to have monthly mobile office hours, just like I did when I was elected to the Township Committee. So please look for me at a coffee shop near you. Thanks.
Thank you. Candidates, our Religious Justice Committee offers the next question, and we'll start this one with Garnett Hall. Religious hate crimes in New Jersey are on the rise in recent years and nearly equal those of racial, ethnic hate crimes, according to the U.S. Department of Justice. How would you, as an Assembly member, approach fostering a culture of inclusivity, tolerance, and respect for diverse religious beliefs within our community, while also ensuring that appropriate measures are taken to prevent and address such hate crimes. Garnett, please unmute yourself. You have 2 minutes.
Maplewood and South Orange are generally two of the most welcoming, inclusive communities that I know. And I've attended many religious support or churches or different religions just to find out how it's different from mine. And I think that it promotes a great culture to live in because we're very acceptable. We learn from each other. We visit and find a way to come up with solutions that affect us differently, to understand things better. New Jersey has a strong criminal sanction for those who commit bias acts and hate crimes, but it's also necessary for zero tolerance, and policies must exist in schools and workplaces. We must be vigilant and making sure that no one feels threatened because of what they may look like, how they may worship, or who they love.
Thank you. Frank McGehee, unmute yourself for your 1-minute response.
Thank you, Sean. In 2017, during my tenure on the Maplewood Township Committee, my colleagues and I voted unanimously to declare Maplewood as the first town in New Jersey to offer sanctuary status. As the country has become even more polarized over the last several years, I have worked with a wide range of local grassroots community-based organizations, activists, and faith leaders to foster a culture of inclusivity, tolerance, and respect for diversity, including religious beliefs. I believe that ongoing education is critical, which is why I applaud the efforts, such as the Combating Bias, Hate, and Violence Summit that Governor Murphy and his administration hosted last year, following the governor's discussion with my friend Larry Ham, a national recognized civil rights leader and community organizer. However, fostering a culture of inclusivity, tolerance, and respect should not depend on who is in office. Every citizen must do their part, and the mainstreaming of any hate groups of any kind cannot stand. As an assembly person, I will support legislation to make the banning of books illegal in New Jersey. I will also work with my colleagues to ensure that there's accurate reporting of hate crimes. And,
Thank you.
oh, sorry, thank you, John.
Cleopatra Tucker, please unmute yourself for your 1-minute response.
Well, I will continue to work with a group of interfaith ministries here in the 28th district to make sure that we can meet and all faith, all denominations to agree on how we can best serve the people in the community, to work together to make sure that we can teach people to love one another and not hate one another. And we'll just continue to have different affairs and meetings with all the ministers of the different groups and bring it to the attention of all the different congregations that what the service that could be offered to make sure we have a well-rounded community in our religious groups and continue to work with them.
Thank you. Our next topic is one on everyone's mind, sadly. It's about gun violence, and it goes first to Frank McGehee. Reducing gun violence and gun crime in our state is more about work on the community level, making our communities safer and more peaceful. We know there probably are people out there right now with firearms in their homes who are at risk of harming themselves or others. Regarding suicide and school-based violence, we'd like to know your thinking about the implementation of the red flag laws, also known as the extreme risk protection orders. Please unmute yourself for a 2-minute answer.
Thank you, Sean. First of all, protecting our kids in our communities is our greatest responsibility. I am proud to live in New Jersey, a pioneer in gun violence prevention, where state legislators have already taken the hard and very important votes to secure a wide range of gun laws to protect our citizens. As the state with the 4th strongest gun laws in the country, we have the 3rd lowest rate of firearm deaths and the lowest rate of firearm ownership at about 9% of households. We know that common sense gun safety laws work, and I am 100% committed to continuing this work. But we need to do more. Red flag laws have been passed in 19 states across the country, including New Jersey. I stand by these laws because it is shown, the data has shown, that red flag laws can prevent a person with a history of violence from owning a gun or considering harming themselves or others. And awareness is absolutely a key component to the success of the red flag laws. And that's why I would work with organizations like Moms Demand Action. This organization, along with Everytown for Gun Safety Support Fund, promotes the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, as well as other public awareness campaigns. One public awareness campaign that Moms Demand Action runs is the Be Smart campaign, which educates parents about how to ask about the presence of guns in their homes, where their children frequent, as well as the importance of securing firearms so that children who are at risk for suicide or self-harm aren't able to access them. We need more of this and more straight talk from public officials about the dangers of gun violence and what we can do about it. Essex County, including Newark and Irvington, lead our state when it comes to gun violence. This needs to stop. I will promote red flag laws. Thank you.
Thank you. Cleopatra Tucker, please unmute yourself for your 1-minute response.
There are too many guns in the country, whether it's legal or illegal. Too many youth dying at the hands of guns. Too many mass shootings. If the red flag law, we can save one person or stop one school shooting, then it's effective. We will continue to work with community partners in Newark and meet with the police communities, relationship councils, and the religious interfaith people to combat this terrible issue with gun laws. And we have to make sure we support the religious groups, the community leaders, and the elected officials to make us feel comfortable in ensuring that we report any suspicious acts and that we are using these acts in a way to ensure safety in our community. So we have to work together and report things that we.
Thank you. Garnett Hall, your 1-minute response. Please unmute yourself.
I support strong red flag laws, getting the guns off the street. And I'm a candidate for Moms Against Gun Violence. It's personal. My son is a Newark police officer in the belly of the beast. And I hear the activity that goes on a daily basis. And I practice that guns are being confiscated and off the streets. And I listen to the community and they want the same thing. One of the things that happens is the community calls the police and the police will tell them, you call me after the shots ring out. So we've got some work to do. I agree with all three of you. Let's get together and get that done.
Thank you. Another gun violence question. This one goes first to Cleopatra Tucker. How do you propose to increase awareness of these red flag laws and create a culture in which there is more reporting without having schools or towns surveilling kids and families? Please unmute yourself for your 2-minute answer.
Well, I think one of the things we can do, we can have more get out more in our community to explain what we're doing and why we want the Red Flag Act protected. We should educate our children in school about see something, say something. And as well as we can have community meetings and throughout all our districts and talk about the gun control acts and the things that we need to do to make sure that our children and our families are protected from these violent issues that's happening with guns. It's a hard thing to do, but we can get it done if we work together through our churches, our schools, and our community, and focus on the red gun, and just explain the importance of to our children and other people about the guns and the right use of a gun and the wrong use of a gun. And I think if we do that and have the community police group come out and talk to the kids and the people about guns and just explain the process of how something can happen so quick. And then you have to make sure that even if you have a weapon in your home, you have the safety lock on the guns, or put the guns away so the children won't be able to reach it, because that's a lot of times, that's one of the things that happen. So we have to work with the police department, our cities, councils, our mayors, our community leaders, and our ministers.
Thank you. Garnett Hall, please unmute yourself for your 1-minute response.
You can notify law enforcement in your community or the state police, or call Sandy Hook Promise Hotline at 1-844-5-SAY-NOW. Many things, I agree with all the things that the three of you have said. But Assemblywoman J.C. has also introduced legislation creating a staff state hotline that's going to be 24/7, a public awareness campaign regarding it to be fully supported. So we are making progress, but we have to just keep pressing until we can get to the point where we can see a little progress at a time.
Thank you. Frank McGehee, please unmute yourself for your 1-minute response.
Thank you, Sean. As I mentioned in my previous answer, awareness is absolutely the key component to the success of this program. And I also mentioned, I talked about organizations like Mom Demand Action and other organizations such as Every Town for Gun Safety Support Fund. Sitting down with these organizations, coupled with our Community Board of Police in our respective communities, as well as our Traffic Bureau, as well as in our Safety Bureau team, and to come up with ideas and concepts which we can disseminate amongst those organizations to provide a stronger understanding of the process and the procedures is key to moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates. Now we turn to questions from the audience. Our first audience question goes to Frank McGehee, and here it is. One of my questions concerns the recently passed Elections Transparency Act, the one that defanged the Elections Law Enforcement Commission, gutted pay-to-play protections, doubled campaign contribution limits, and authorized slush funds, among other issues. The Maplewood Democratic Committee, to their credit, came out against it, even though it was a Democratic bill that passed almost entirely along party lines. Of our district's current state legislators, only John McKeon had the courage to buck the party and vote no, one of only 4 Democrats in both houses to do so. The other 3 included Cleopatra Tucker. I do not know much about her, but that speaks well of her. I would like to ask the candidates how they would have voted on that bill. Frank, you have 2 minutes.
Yes, and I would have been right there with John as well. You know, at the end of the day, when you think about having a level playing field and the opportunity for people to engage in the political process, inclusive of funding, we do not want to have opportunities where people can put money into pools and we cannot extract and find out where the sources are coming from. That's not transparency. That's not democracy. And I applaud Assemblyman McKeon for standing up. You know, as Democrats, we are unified in many issues and many concepts, but we also first and foremost serve the people. And what is right and just for the people may not necessarily align with our party. So I, for one, would have aligned with McKeon and voted it down. And that's what I feel about that topic. Thank you, Sean.
Cleopatra Tucker, we know how you voted, but we'll give you 1 minute to discuss this more.
Well, I voted no because I didn't think it was the right thing to do. And I looked at it, the things that, I think it wasn't transparent, and we have to be most transparent in what we do. And so that I just voted no because I didn't think it was right.
Thank you. Garnett Hall, 1 minute, please.
Cleo voted no. And with John McCann, that's my response.
Okay, thank you. We continue with some audience questions. And the next one would go to Cleopatra Tucker. Do you see any way of shifting some of the burden of school funding from the individual townships and cities to the state? Let's keep everybody to 1 minute on these. Cleopatra Tucker, unmute yourself, please, for your 1 minute response.
What else do I say? Just good idea?
Well, it's probably just, it's a good idea. We have to work out something, and we have to have meetings and get together and work out the best way to get it done.
Thank you. Now over to Garnett Hall.
You unmuted? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
All right. I would say that that's a good idea, especially for special ed. Special education cost our districts a fortune.
Okay, thank you. Frank McGehee.
Thanks, Sean. You know, this is a concept that reminds me a lot of shared services. You know, when I was on the Maplewood Township Committee, we merged our fire departments, keeping our synergies, providing still the same level of service, but also reducing financial burdens on both Maplewood and South Orange. And I think looking at our districts in a more of a macro level and try to find synergies at the state level is in that line. So funding could be allocated across multiple districts versus the burden being on the school districts. Right now, you know, just speaking with some of the teachers in SOMA in 30 seconds, in understanding some of the concerns they have, these are concerns that prevent them to a certain extent from, you know, being able to teach at the highest level because there are constraints. But the source of funds for those issues that they want to address may not necessarily be at the district or municipal level. Those are opportunities that we could address in Trenton at the state level. So I am supportive of that concept of reallocating expenses from the municipal level up to the state level in more of a shared services capacity. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you to the audience. Now we turn to the candidates' closing statements. You have 1 minute, and based on our rotation, Cleopatra Tucker, you're first. Please unmute yourself.
Well, I've been in the assembly for the last 15 years. I'm always voted and supported the education bills, the health bills, and I mainly work with veterans and supporting all the men and women who serve. I serve on the Military and Veterans Affairs Committee for the past 15 years, and I've also served on the Human Service Committee for 15 years, and telecommunications and appropriations. I'm asking for your support to continue doing the work that I do and that I've been doing for the last 15 years. And thank you for your support and vote Democratic line. I'm A2, A3 for Garnett Hall, and A1 for Senator Burgess. Thank you.
Thank you. Now over to Garnett Hall. Please unmute yourself for your 1 minute closing statement.
I'm a proud Democrat. Honored to be running with Assemblywoman representatives for the 28th District, Senator Burgess, Assemblywoman Cleo Tucker, and me, Garnett Hall, for Assembly. I am especially happy to share the ticket with my friends and colleagues, Vic DeLuca and Dean Daffis, both of whom I have known for years and supported their campaigns. Renee and Cleo have demonstrated their commitment to their constituents and communities by work that they do every day, motivated by the desire to serve and to improve the communities in which they represent. As a Maplewood resident for 35 years, I certainly know SOMA and the lifelong Essex County residents as Deputy Essex County Clerk. I travel through the county regularly, and I am familiar with the west and south wards of Newark and the townships of Irvington. Thank you.
Thank you. Frank McGehee, please unmute yourself for your 1-minute closing statement.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Sean, and thank you to SOMA Action for hosting this forum. I also want to thank the other candidates as well, Assemblywoman Tucker, as well as Hall. Tonight provided another opportunity for you to learn about my background, experiences, and the issues that I am passionate about and will look to address in Trenton. It also provided you with the opportunity to think critically about the candidates, our track records, and decide who will best serve you and our local communities in Trenton. I'm running for Assembly because the voters in our community need change and not politics as usual. We deserve experienced leaders. We need problem solvers with vision. We need the best candidate to represent us and fight for us on these issues that matter in Trenton. And that candidate is me. In addition to abortion rights, education, and environmental and racial justice, as your Assembly person, I will tackle affordability, jobs, education, and public safety. I hope to erase borders, bring people together, and serve our municipalities as one community. Vote line B for Democrat Frank McGehee. Vote now by mail, early on June 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, or on Election Day on June 6th. Because for change to happen, it's up to us. Thank you very much. Have a great evening.
Thank you. Friends, we've reached the end of our time. I want to thank our candidates for their thoughtful responses tonight. And I'm going to throw it over to my friend Ritu to close us out.
I also want to thank everyone who has tuned in today. We know that we were unable to entertain all of the audience participation questions, but we encourage you to do your own research and to reach out to the candidates with your questions. Your participation today is a testament to the strength of our democracy and the importance of informed decision-making. During the course of today's forum, we received several questions that we did get into. I want to reiterate, because we received several questions about the ballot, and I just want to reiterate some facts again. So we used to be in District 27. Due to redistricting, we are now in District 28. This June will be the first election for members of South Orange and Maplewood where you will be voting in District 28. This district no longer includes West Orange. I know that some members of West Orange were on this debate. Assemblywoman Mila Jacey has retired. We thank her for her service. We were represented by her for 16 years, and it was we thank her for that long longevity and her service. We also used to be represented by Assemblyman John McKeon, and you heard about him during the course of today's forum. But on June 6th, in the primary, you will be picking one senator. The only person who is running for Senate on the Democratic primary is Senator Renee Burgess. So it's an uncontested seat. You will be picking 2 assembly seats. There are 3 candidates here. That's why we invited them, and we thank them for participating in this very long debate. And we are very, very grateful for your service today. I know it was long, but thank you so much. I think the public has really appreciated it. And so again, thank you so much for participating. And so as we conclude, I just want to say, stay informed, SOMA, engage with these critical issues, and most importantly, vote June 6th. So thank you. Have a great day, everyone. Great night.